the participants starting to trickle in. Good morning, folks. Attendees are starting to trickle in, so we'll just let it all see that counter roll up and then be ready to go. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, hello, and welcome to our typically bi-weekly TechCasts. My name is Wayne Van Sluis, Senior Lead Consultant with Argonaut, working primarily in business analytics as well as data integration for EPM. I am joined by a whole host of great people. Dan Valamis from Valamis Software Solutions, Abby Gilhai, Chief Data Science Officer from Vertex Cloud, Philippe Leon, Senior Director at Oracle, and then Tim Dickinson, a BI consultant with Ritten and Mead. And I like to see people's faces and know who they are, so when I meet them in person, I have a voice and a name and a face. So we have a full hour ahead of us with a lot of great topics. A little bit of housekeeping. We ask that if you have a question, please post it in the Q&A. That way we can track whether the question's getting answered, and then also track where we're progressing. We have some little housekeeping. These TechCasts are recorded and stored out on YouTube as well as on our website. So if you can get out to AnDOUC.org, you should be able to find them there. We also are having our summit coming next month, actually about 4 weeks from today. So if you're not already registered, we would love it if you could come and join us. It's 3 full days packed of incredible content. And again, please check that out at AnDOUC.org and get registered. For those of you who like merch, we have our store of some fun AnDOUC branded items. Coffee mugs are cool. They actually transition when the coffee hits them and you can see something neat. Again, contact us through various social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Slack, our website, and our Paperly newsletter, which is a feed of interesting topics related to our industry. And for those of you who would like to read, I haven't blogged for a while, but I'm planning to get back into it. I have a blog. Valamis has a blog. Ritten and Mead has a blog covering some of the topics that we'll be talking about today, which was posted back in January. And then, of course, the Analytics YouTube channel that is updated with anything new coming out of the releases that Philippe helps record. These are awesome videos. And with that, I'd like to introduce Abby. Abby, could you please take over control of the screen and introduce yourself to the crew?
There we go. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Evening, all those in the UK. I saw a Newcastle upon Tyne shout out over there. So hello, I'm also in Newcastle upon Tyne. So I got asked to look at one of the cool new features that came out this year, and specifically in the data science field. Those who don't know me, I'm the Chief Data and Technology Officer for Vertex, often found in the AI ML world, kind of dabble in the OAC world and send some curveballs at Philippe every now and again. So for me, this is a cool new area and feature that we have in the Oracle Analytics Cloud. So without further ado, what is it that I've picked on? So it's the new connection out to the OCI services. So you've got two versions of it, or flavors, if you like. You've got the natural language or the language processing, and then you've got the vision services. So we're going to really go a little bit into depth on the language one, kind of what is it, how can you connect it together, etc., etc. So on my screen, you'll see that I am in the normal console. So if you're used to OCI, you'll recognize this front screen. And if you'll see there, I've been looking at AI services language. So I'll just click on it. Those who haven't seen OCI language services, don't panic. If you want, there are already pre-trained algorithms in there. There is a cool feature where you can add your own custom models. So if you create your own model, you can upload it and use it, or you can use the pre-trained models. Having used the service, the pre-trained is pretty damn good. To be fair, they've been trained on a really good data set and lots of different options for you. So you've got language detection, so looking at detecting what language is in the document, text classification, so breaking it down into categories, sentiment analysis, so you happy or sad, always a good one to know, key phrase extraction, really useful in terms of salient talking points of what's been said in a paragraph or in a document. Named entity recognition. Those who know me, and I love to present on things like fraud analytics, so being able to pull out products, names, ages, amounts, things like that, entities. And the last one, remove any PII entities and mask them, so replace personal identifiable kind of information from a document. So these are the pre-trained models, and like I say, that actually covers a good kind of plethora of things that you would do in language analysis anyway. If you did want to go one further, you could upload your own custom models. So especially if you're in a unique area or industry, you might want to have a language model that is specifically trained for your kind of organization. Now, these pre-trained models no longer just sit in OCI, and this is where the joy and the link between OAC and OCI has come in. So if we jump over to Oracle Analytics, essentially what we've done in the background is connect Oracle Analytics to this OCI. And we do, there's a few steps, it's already documented. I know Wayne was talking about blogs. I will write a blog piece on this, just kind of taking people step by step if you really want to follow this one through later on. But essentially you can connect the two together. And once you've done that, you can do register model, and you can see you've got the OCI vision and you've got the OCI language. We just jump into the language one. There are our ones that we've just been seeing in the console. So back in OCI, there they were, sentiment, key phrase, etc. Now we can just literally pick them here and register them to use in Oracle Analytics. So this is the connection point between OCI and OAC. Now, why I like this, it's that meld between the data scientist who's created that really cool, amazing Python model that might be really specific to your industry, and enabling people inside the business to start using it. So using it through OAC. How do we get to use it? Well, that's by using data flows. So what we'll do is we'll just go into one I made earlier. So I've created two just to show off what it can do. Yes, I am planning a trip to Disney. It wasn't just me picking a data set. I am actually planning to go to the US and to Disney in 2024. So I had to do a bit of, research on good things about Disney. What do I need to know? Maybe kind of values and things like that. So the first thing I did is I got some reviews of Disney. Here they are. You can see the review text. I've trimmed it down a little bit here. My first filter, I'm just going for California. I'm off to the US Disney, and I've got the latest reviews that this data set had. And here's the apply model. So here, I'm reaching out to a pre-trained sentiment analysis. So the one I'm using is in OCI sentiment analysis. It's going to go out to the pre-trained OCI and look at the sentiment. And what we're going to look at here, it's got the analysis levels, sentiment. It's going to give you a positive, negative score, neutral score, and a status summary. I'm going to input field is going to be the trimmed review. I'm going to also get it to save out to the data set a review ID, a rating, and the actual review itself. Hit run, and that basically is connecting OAC and OCI together and enabling us to do sentiment. In the same way you can do it with extraction, except instead on the apply model, here's the pre-trained named entity. So as long as you have registered them to work with OAC, you can use all of those OCI pre-trained models. Fantastic. What does that mean? How does that look? Well, I created a quick canvas just to kind of show off what that looks like. So here we've got the sentiment analysis. We can bring out all of the text, number of records, etc. We can place it into word clouds. So we can look at the negative words and the positive words. I quite like this view though. So I brought also the entity extraction. I can pick a review ID. There's the full review. We can see the length of the review, the sentiment text, whether it was positive, positive score. I can also bring out the entities, so date, time, Christmas, park, lights, kids, age, etc. coming out. We can drop that in and start looking at other ones. This is a really powerful language analysis of those reviews. So without really coding anything in Python, I've not had to go off and train a model, just simply using the services there. We can connect it into OAC. I can upload a CSV and start using them straight away. In terms of the entity analysis, then we can look at the number of records. A lot of them differ into date, time, location, products, quantity, and we start to see these visuals of unstructured data becoming structured and giving us a really organized view of what's going on. So Wayne, my top one for the new release is definitely the language model in OCI.
Good deal. So we have the next one? Are you covering the artificial intelligence models, or are we done with that?
Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the vision one. I wanted to go more in depth on that language one.
Perfect. Thank you, Abby. So we have up next, Tim. Take it away.
Hi. Hello there. My name's Tim Dickinson. I'm in the UK as well, not in Newcastle, sadly. Hello, everybody. I'm going to talk about my favourite feature of the new release in Jan 2023, which is the automatically calculate age durations. And thanks, Abby. That's a difficult act to follow. So I'm going to keep it fairly brief. But what I really like so I'm in a data preparation screen here, and this extract age. So where I've got just an order date, I can extract my years and my months, and I've kind of done that here. So I've got my age in years here, 5 years. This is quite an old data set, and I've been asked, well, what orders have we had from 7 or 8 years ago? What were they? And rather than having to do like fairly, complex or more complex ago functions or timestamp diff, which obviously was an OBI kind of thing, analytics thing. It's just really handy to be able to, with one day, be able to go extract age and get those out. So that's what I did in the data prep. And then I can quickly start to use that data in a visualization, which is kind of what, hopefully you can see this. So I have here, I'm filtering here on orders with an age of 7 or more years. So obviously that's pretty useful to show. And then I've done months here. So I've got age between 6.5 and 7.5 years, which it's a bit of a random ask, but it is pretty as long as I put the months in there as well. But that's quite easy to get to very quickly. So I kind of like that because you don't have to do any coding. You just enrich your data set really quickly with that. And hey, presto, you've got some visualizations very quickly. I've got one more thing briefly to talk about as well, which is the grid feature, where you can snap to grid. So again, here all I've done really is, I don't know if you can see, the grid lines are fairly tight together, but I could probably increase them a little bit. So if I just, sorry, you can obviously set the grid size to a larger grid size here, 10. Let's click OK. So really you can snap to the contents all lined up really neatly. And this is really handy, apart from the written in me bit at the bottom. And please, the profit is not related to the company at all. So please disregard that. But all I'm saying is really it's quite easy to get the presentation you want with the free. You do need to obviously set it to freeform, so that your canvas needs to be in freeform mode before you can do this. But if you need a specific layout, and you might want to, put it to a web somewhere, and it has to be a certain size, so it becomes quite useful to do this level of granularity, if you like, to get the best kind of presentation. So I think sorry, it's quite brief, but I'll probably leave it there, and I'll pass over to Philippe. So thanks everybody. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks, Tim. That was great. One quick question on the ago. Is it, or the age? It's always relative to today's date?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, you might recognize it's quite an old data set. Okay. So there's some very old stuff in there, and I haven't really got anything for like last year, but that's correct to the current year. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks much.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Take care.
Cheers. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you very much, Wayne, Tim, and Abby. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can.
Hey, so good afternoon, good morning. Thanks for these presentations. This was really interesting to me, being from Oracle, and I don't know if I have my camera on or not. Here, let me turn it on. You can see.
And you get a little bit more than 10 minutes, Philippe, because we've all gone short.
It's fine. I'll try to keep it short though. But so I'm Philippe. I'm working with Oracle. I'm in the product management team at Oracle Analytics, and for those who know me, I'm pretty enthusiastic with the product, pretty enthusiastic. That's my French getting back to me here. And I'd like to talk about some of the new features. One new feature, the one that I say like the most in January, it's very much aligned with the concept that the AB has presented already on bringing powerful, advanced machine learning capabilities or AI capabilities into the hands of business users. This is a lot, you're going to see a lot of this in Oracle Analytics. And one that I particularly like in January is the enhancement of segmentation algorithms that we have in Oracle Analytics. So you can see here on my screen is a canvas with some sales analysis. So this is some sales data, demo data, pretty classic demo that we have, and maybe some trending here, some seasonality or sorts of different charts. But I would like also to leverage AI or machine learning to define segments in my records. I have about 10,000 records here, and I'd like the system to group these records in meaningful, contrasted groups for, let's say, average sales. So what are the combinations of products, customers, maybe containers, maybe ship modes, maybe any containers of all these dimensions here that would maximize average sales. So typically this is a pretty tedious process. It's very hard to do manually, and it's quite also technical to do using machine learning. So what I'm going to do is use the long existing explain feature, but in January, in the explain feature, we have enhanced a lot the segmentation algorithm. So explain gives me a little bit of a descriptive analysis of average sales here with big descriptive charts. It also gives me key drivers, which is a clue to me of what really influences sales. So product subcategory, product container, product category. Okay, that's interesting. But here is a segment tab, which actually didn't exist for metrics before. It existed for attributes, but not for metrics. And that is already very quickly identifying groups of records in my data set with characteristics about average sales. So These are the number of records here. Here's the bar chart, and the color is indicating how far we are from the average sales. So in fact, before I show you more, let's go a little bit bigger than 20 here. Let's just make the list a little longer for 50, just for the fun of it. And so I can basically influence my what I'm getting back. And if I scroll down a little bit here, I can see all of these. Maximize the screen so you can see. All right. So still not enough. My laptop has a small resolution here, so that's okay. Here we go. It's a little better. For each of these segments above, I have a little tile here indicating to me what is the segment made up of, how many rows do we have, or what's the average sales value, 1600 in this case, 722 records, and the definition of that segment. And a little bit more information about it, how far it is from the average of the data set. So the average of the data set here is about 940. So it's that dotted line, and this is a big segment, but just above the average data set. This is a small segment, small dot, but pretty far ahead of the data set. So that may be of interest to me, and so on. So I can visualize this in different ways, as a table or as a set of different tiles. As I said, I can sort them in different ways. I can also restrict this to only show me, well, how about only high segment values. So I'm going to click off everything else here. And this is giving me a list of groups of records. But maybe I want to go a little finer here and say, well, this is a group of 338 records averaging 5,600 sales, pretty high. But it's made up of records that have a high profit and records that have a high gross unit price. Well, pretty trivial, right? So let me click on the settings here. And now I'm going to really start to getting actionable and influence the algorithm. So let's influence the algorithms to begin with. Let's have him go up to 3 criteria, not 2. And let's look at what are the candidates of columns that can participate in explaining average sales. And let's say we don't want profit, we don't want quantity, we don't want sales, we don't want any of this. We just want to force the system to find segments only with these columns right there. And that's it. So now I'm going to refresh that segmentation, and you will see how powerful this is. So this is not based on any cache. This is looking back at the full data set. And it's a small data set, but it's going to sample it behind the scenes and identify a new set of segments. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit so you can see. So this is a new set of 50 segments showing high value average sales. And now here we have the first one being 160 rows, averaging 4,300, made up of large boxes with a shipping cost between this much and that much. This is another one with a different group. So shipping costs, you know what? I missed shipping costs. I wanted to remove all these matrices. Let me apply it. And I can tune down my cycle of segmentation here, poking around until I found segments that have a meaning to me. So here's a group of 243 rows. Let me pick it. This wasn't there before, if you were used to segmentation in previous releases. Now I can say, well, I want segment 2, I want segment 8, and what the heck, let's say 25 as well. And let's bring this to my canvas. So I'm down with my iteration here in the segmentation, and this is called some powerful algorithms behind the scenes. But as a business user, I didn't have to worry about that. I just consumed it. And as I clicked Add Selected, now I'm going back to my own canvas. You can see here a new tab was added called Explain Average Sales. And I have 3 pivot tables, each pivot table is representing the number of rows in segments. So this was segment 1, this was segment 2, and segment 3 that we brought across. Now here's the definition of these segments. This table shows the row counts for the rows that match or do not match the criteria for a segment, made up of delivery truck and technology and so and so. And in fact, that object here belongs to segment 1, now has made it to my new calculations right there. So as I clicked Add to Canvas, the system created these columns, and these columns I'm not really interested in really going behind the scenes, but I'm doing it for the demo here, is a statement that qualifies if any record belongs or not to a segment. Same for the other. So what does that mean? First of all, it means that I can use this table already to visualize some aspects of my segment. So if you remember, let's see what we have. So this is the average sales for records in the segments, not in the segments. I could start from here and grow that, or I can simply go to my analysis and use these columns as filters. So I'm going to drag this one here, which was just pulled across by explain, and use it as a filter. And let's look only at records in the segment. So now, well, the set of charts pretty much changes, and this is 243. So let's undo. That's the whole set. Redo. That's only the segment. We can already see that behavior of these analysis is different for these two populations. I can also, if I use a different one, use it as a filter as well. Let me go with segment 2 now. We can also simply use this object anywhere in the grammar of a chart. So let's say we use this as trellis columns. Let me grab it. Okay. And now we have our segment, and we have, that is the part that is not, okay, the part that is not in the segment. I can simply use these objects right away in any of my visualizations. Let me do it here. And I understand and identify what's going on in the segment that was found. And in this case, in fact, I realized that I should have done maybe something more meaningful here. Let's see if we have a difference. Yes, so this is average sale now. So you can see that what is in the segment is very different from what is not in the segment. So what I've done here is I've simply invoked a powerful algorithm behind the scenes. So it's a proprietary algorithm from Oracle to identify segments in my data set. And I have tuned that algorithm in a very iterative way while I was working with it. And I have taken the results of the algorithm back into my canvas to play and slice and dice along with these objects, these resulting objects, so I can make this actionable. I do like this feature very much because it makes me, business user, very powerful with an advanced capability without requiring any specific knowledge on my side. That was it. Hopefully I didn't pass the timing, Wayne. Any questions?
No, that's awesome. Would you have time to quickly talk about the bubble sizes on maps, or do you not have that?
Certainly. So that's it's more of a, I like this feature as well. How did you read my mind like this way? So this is a capability that we've added in January as well, which let me just pick an example here quickly. Let's say we wanted to represent sales and city on a map. I'm going to pick a visualization and represent this as a map. So this is a visualization little feature that will help the map become a lot more usable for its end users. So nothing to do with advanced analytic algorithms. Now my server here is playing a trick on me. Anyway, this is going to show bubbles with cities over the world for this data set. Now, as I may have other visas here on this chart, one of the challenge could be I'm just going to add some random visas to this canvas just to make the point of my demo. So the canvas may become busy, and as the canvas becomes busy, the map may be hard to read with dots, very dense dots on the maps, and it's difficult to see them. So what we have added in January is a capability to go in the map properties. So let me, my screen is small, so let me do this and look at the grammar of the map. Sorry, I'm clicking around a little bit so that we can see it better. So now I've selected a map and I'm looking at the properties of the map. And within the properties of the map, I have an option here to set the size of the little dot. So there are two options, right? One is just fix the size once and for all. So as you can see, as I make the size smaller, let me make it 4, for instance. So the dots are easier to read on the map. In this case, the color is not great, so perhaps I should remove the color away from it. So let me go in the remove the color here. Let me make the color. Yeah, let me remove it. Probably a lot easier to read now. So you see now it's a lot more readable for me. Okay. Now the other option, and that's also a very cool one, is what if the color had been a metric defining the size of the point? Okay, so here I go back to where we were at the beginning with very large dots and small dots, but it's very hard for me to see what is what. Again, in the properties of the map layer for that viz, I can set the minimum and the maximum. So let me go and set this to 4px and this one to let's say 10px, just because in the context of my canvas, the map says a small size itself. And now it's a lot easier for me to go and understand and read the map right there without having to make it big on the screen. So that capability was added in January, and it will add us to show dense data points on maps in a very, more consumable way. Was that what you meant?
Yes, sir. That was awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks.
Yeah, me too. And I like that there's the transparency feature added to it as well.
Exactly.
So,
yes.
The opacity. Perfect.
Great.
Thanks, Philippe.
Thank you.
All right, Dan, take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Wayne. Thanks, Philippe, for showing that. And gee, when you were passed the curveball of, hey, can you show the map visualization, the size of the dots, you didn't resort to showing the pre-recorded demo. That's great. I could just do that. By the way, I'll make a quick plug. I'm going to use this anyway, just to showcase something. But if you want to see some of these new features, Oracle Analytics puts out a playlist on YouTube, and they show all this, all the capabilities. You can see the setting bubble size in Oracle Analytics maps here. Little 2-minute video that shows a lot of what Philippe just showed. And they produce these for every release, and they're really helpful. I'm going to use this a little bit on the multi-measures.
Dan, can you share your screen, please?
Oh, thank you. Sorry about that. I missed something. Thanks, Wayne. All right. So out in the YouTube, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to talk a little bit about sharing multiple visualizations, but in the tiles. But out here, you can see in Oracle Analytics Cloud new features, there's a video on setting bubble size in Oracle Analytics Maps, and they go through all the new features in here, not all of them, many of them. And this is what I use to kind of brush up on what some of the new features are. You can do that too. There are a couple things, and this is just highlighting the tile visualization stuff. What I wanted to talk about, especially, is some of the changes in the homepage. You may notice in various releases, Oracle has improved the homepage, what we call the new homepage. And in here, we now have the ability to customize this homepage more effectively. You'll notice the big change is the gray bar in here. And by the way, if you were wondering why it's gray, there's new stuff coming out in a future release. Oracle's already talked about it publicly, so I can mention they're going to have these things called watch lists, where you can set various visualizations that you especially care about will go in kind of this gray area. That's why the change here. And that's coming. But we can also customize this area now, have a what's new area. That's what's up here. I can set how many rows I want that to take up, of my dashboard, that type of thing, as well as favorites, move these things around, that type of stuff. And we also have the ability to open, when you open one of these, you can open in a new tab automatically instead of having to remember to right click and click new tab, that type of thing. So we have all this in here, the ability to do that, and the ability to look at catalog data and then search through this. This is stuff that's been in there for a while, but the homepage is now coming in its own. So take a look at that as you go through this, and you can change that. The other thing I wanted to especially talk about was the ability to use a major new enhancement to the tiles visualization. If you've been following this, you may have noticed that the tiles, left something to be desired in terms of flexibility of what we were doing. I'm going to pull a page, rather than show this from scratch, I'm going to pull a page out of a class that my brother Tim and I give on data visualization. And we created this visualization, Tim created this, where we used essentially 4 performance tiles to show the pieces of this. And we kind of teach this portion of this to show why you would have this as a major factor, EBITDA, and then it is based on 3 different key performance indicators that make up EBITDA. And so we do this with 4 different performance tiles. And I'll tell you, quite frankly, Tim spent a while changing this around. In the class, we go through why you would use a gray background to highlight stuff, if that's the proper way to do that. What do you do in terms of decimal places? Why you do set up stuff the way you do. And so we actually have multiple versions of this that we show in the class. And I kind of decided, hey, with this new feature, we haven't incorporated all the stuff in January in the class yet, but I thought, well, let me try and do this with the new feature and see what I could do with the new tiles capability. Now that we can have multiple measures in here, instead of having to use 4 measures, I can use a single tile to show EBITDA here, and then the 3 additional performance characteristics, the key performance indicators that make that up, all in one tile, rather than having to use 4 tiles and get the placement of those exactly right and such. So I'm going to show you what I did to kind of create that. So I'm going to go to our original canvas, and I'm going to right click, and I'm going to duplicate this canvas and make it over again. And I'm going to get rid of, and you'll see here's that performance tile that's in here. And I'm going to get rid of these additional vises. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. And then I'm going to come in and change this from the deprecated tile, it's still there, to the new performance tile. And it takes on the default values now. And then I can come in here and add those additional ones. So it's net profit, this, and drag those over and have those in here. And now they're all in one performance tile. Now I've got to do some other things in here to fix this up because I lost all of my formatting in here. But I can change this around. And one of the other things that changed in this is now the ability in my grammar pane, the way I set my properties, this flips between the grammar pane and the layout pane. So that's how you can change this. Before, you may recall the properties were down here in the lower left. Now they're capitalizing on this because you really don't need to have both of those at once. And so now I change this properties, and I can change things like in here, the layout of this, the font, all that type of stuff. But I can make this, instead of being vertical, I can make this horizontal and make those values go across. I can change the font and make this, really, this needs to be more like 16 point. And as well, the secondary values font needs to be 16 point. And then I can change all this type of stuff in here, as well as I change to the tab, change this to currency and number format here, currency. And then one of the things that we're kind of sticklers on is it doesn't make sense to have this have 2 decimal places here. So I'm going to change these all. Now, this is the type of thing you would set in your catalog to default properly. But I wanted to show you this is what really happens in a lot of implementations. You need to set these things because various people have not set that correctly. And so all this stuff, I can go and create this type of tile now with one tile, recover some space, move these things around with this free-form layout, and recover some space and be able to do everything with one performance tile that has this EBITDA. This is what I came up with. I got close to it. I don't have time to show you every little change, but then I can make this, change the font on this, change the title. Indeed, my brother Tim would still take exception with me not making this prettier, not making this more functional. This is replicating this data in here. And we expect at some point the ability to have this ability to have the May 2015, which right now is hard-coded. We'll have the ability in the future to be able to have that run off of some variables so that that automatically updates. That type of thing is something I know is in the planning for the Oracle Analytics platform. But that's a special one to showcase is the performance tiles capability in here. So one thing I'll show, this is all the different, this is from the video. You can see a bunch of different options and how you can make these performance tiles, including stuff like conditional formatting in here all works. It makes it a much more feature-rich thing. And I'll also quickly point out, we go over this stuff in a class. We have one coming up on March 7th, if you're interested. It's a 3-hour class specifically on data visualization and how to get the most out of a platform. We use Oracle Analytics as the example for all of those and all the topics that we talk about, but it is not specifically on Oracle Analytics. It's on the concept of how to build the best dashboards and think about analytics and present that effectively with data visualization. I'll put a link to that in the chat in case people are interested. It's a free class with a free trial. It's a class with a free trial from the O'Reilly platform. So you can get I believe a 10-day trial. So you'll want to sign up about 10 days before, within 10 days of the class, and you can try out the entire platform for free, including this class. So I'll put a link to that in here. And that's what I especially wanted to go over. Turn it back to you, Wayne. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. That was some good stuff. And you stole my thunder with the grammar panel.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
You were talking about that.
We're all good. We're all good. Okay, folks. So mine is on the EPM portion of pivot tables that have been added into it's the ability to present the pivot table values in OAC that are where the roll-up isn't necessarily at the top. Okay, in EPM, we typically don't report at the top member, the generation one. SmartView knows how to handle it perfectly. So this is SmartView going into the product dimension, and we drill down, right? So what we're looking at is how do we take away and make that work, that in the past, the hierarchy column did not work well with EPM data. Because again, the data doesn't usually roll up to the top, so it ends up being a null at the top. And we end up doing something like this to show the hierarchies. Well, the new feature release in January allowed for the hierarchy structure to now work. In the past, we'd get no data return because it didn't know to handle nothing at product. And now this should have refreshed faster. So that's the new feature that I'm liking, because it now allows me to really see the data the same way that people who work with EPM planning or financial consolidation close, any of those products gets to see their data doing the expand and in place kind of navigation through the hierarchy, instead of dealing with it more flattened like we'd see here. So that it worked great in SBase because SBase typically rolls up to the top member, but planning and financial consolidation don't typically roll up to the top. So now we're given this new ability to work with hierarchy columns, especially for people who want to create dashboards or visualizations off of their EPM data. So that is a feature that I am really happy is in place and functioning now, because I have a lot of clients who use Oracle Analytics on their EPM data. And quite frankly, they're able to take this then and embed it into an EPM dashboard through the ability of externalizing OAC content. So that's my favorite new feature out of the January 2023 release. And as Dan talked about, I will still talk back again, the ability to just switch between my grammar panel and the properties panel. This is easy. It makes it so much cleaner instead of having to go down and scroll around and resize this left side. where it used to sit. And sometimes I was stretching it up. And the nice thing is I can just toggle. And we have all of the properties right here available to us. And some new properties are being added into this, as Philippe showed with the map view, the ability to control the opacity or the transparency of the bubbles, as well as the bubble sizes. So I'm looking forward to really kicking the tires on OAC January 23 release. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to see what's coming out in May. Philippe told us at the potential of having the May release being previewed at the AnDOUC hands-on labs. So
we will organize this, Wayne.
Yep.
Yep.
Cool. So that's my favorite new feature. Let's put this away. And again, I'd like to just point out that we're hosting the AnDOUC Summit in March. Would love to have you attend and see us all there. Registration's open. And with that, do we have any questions come through? No questions. The two of them were answered. I would personally like to thank.
Point out while you have this slide up, if you don't mind, the registration deadline for that is still going on for the Analytics and Data Summit. But if you get your tickets through March 1st, you'll be able to get the registration, regular registration price instead of having to pay the late registration price. So register now for the next couple weeks until March 1. And you'll be able to save on attending that in-person conference. We're excited to get the gang back together for the Analytics and Data Summit. So come join us out in California.
Good deal.
I'll put a link to the stuff AnDOUC you can get, or I'll give you a link directly to where that is, folks.
Okay, we have a question from Greg Ferristan. Is there a way to set default formats for metrics and DV? Could you answer that, Dan or Philippe?
I know you can certainly do it in Classic. Not sure about the DV question itself. You can do it for a given viz, but not as a default. So I need to follow up with.
Yeah, I think that's something that I remember was coming. I believe it comes from the catalog, but that's in Classic. I think Greg, you point that out, and that's correct. It's especially for the catalog, but in DV it doesn't pull those. I thought we had something to do that, but I'm not remembering exactly where and exactly how. I just basically change it each time because it's easier. Yeah, I agree. And then the comment from Greg is when you use DV, none of that carries over. They reset it each time to proper formatting. It's exactly correct. So
I'll follow up with the PM in charge of this.
Yep.
Name is Avinash. Maybe you know him.
Right. That's why I decided to go ahead and show it, because it does show what we hit in the real world when we try and do these demos, that you end up setting the number of decimal places and the fact that you put a currency symbol on there. Those that were watching very carefully would notice also I did that as those calculations and brought those over. And it may be also because I'm doing those as calculations.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank my co-presenters for a great presentation, and would like to thank you all for attending. Look for more TechCasts in the future, and hope to see you at the summit in March. Thank you.